Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. The top 10 designer fragrances for men on the market at the moment. Now, obviously, I can't say that I've tried every single designer fragrance, but I know what's very popular and what people tend to like. My collection is getting really big now, so I am able to get my hands on a lot of the top most popular fragrances, and I do have an awful lot. So this might not be an exhaustive list, but it's going to be pretty damn close. The more important thing, I think, is what do I mean by high quality? Basically, I have 5 criteria. It has to have very strong performance, both projection and longevity. The scent has to be not synthetic in any way, but I want a high quality scent. I also want something that is popular, relatively popular. The 5th one might be the most contentious because I also want something modern. I want a DNA from the last decade. So I'm giving you some leeway, but there are a surprising number of fragrances on the market that are using DNA from like 20 years ago. Fragrance number 1, this is Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Mal Elixir. Now, this was extremely difficult because I also really like Le Parfum. In fact, I like Le Parfum more. This is highest quality, not what Stu likes. And they're very similar, somewhat similar anyway, in the dry downs. This one is a lot sweeter. This has a honey note that makes quite a bit difference, and it's pumped up with the vanilla. This one's more toned down. It's a little spicy with the cardamom. But at the end of the day, there was one clear winner, and it was basically due to performance. This guy, I get at least an hour, maybe even an hour and a half more longevity with this than with Le Parfum. And this also projects a fair bit more than Le Parfum. So, yeah, in the end, and I would have loved to have put this on the list alongside this, but the DNA is too similar. Fragrance number 2, Gucci Guilty Absolute. Now, the thing with this one I struggled with was the popularity. You want a fragrance that at least a certain number of people are going to like and enjoy. And this one is not a blind buy because I would say 15 to 20% of people will try this and go, no, thank you, because it's a very strong woody and leather fragrance. It's very, very strong, very powerful. But I've seen so many people call this a masterpiece. I do think more people will like this than they realize. Just a lot of people haven't tried it because they're scared. So I would say 80% of people will like that, and that's enough. It has all the other criteria down pat. Very strong performer. It is way more interesting than anything else in the house of Gucci, which quite frankly is a boring, boring house. This is the best, I believe, and it's definitely the most masculine fragrance on this list as well. Next one was really easy. This is Emporio Armani's Stronger With You, Absolutely. Intensely was very good, but this one was just a little bit better. And it's funny what's going on in fragrance community right now. And I'm going to talk about the next 3 fragrances, and you'll see how the houses are evolving. So in this particular case, the fragrance before it, Stronger With You, was like a vanilla nutty. This is a chestnut fragrance, vanilla nutty, and that did well. But the more times they add gourmandy notes, they added rum to this. So vanilla, nut, and rum. And it got a lot more sales. People liked it a lot more. And that is a big trend. And so this one is a very popular style. It's got really good performance. And it's the best in the line. And I think from Armani. Next up, we have Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privee. And very much like Armani, Givenchy put out a fragrance, a sweet iris fragrance, this EDP, that did really, really well. Like their best fragrance sales in like 40, 50 years, really. It did super well. But it was just sweet. But you take a little chestnut and a little whiskey and tone down the vanilla a little bit, and now it's more gourmandy. So it's not just vanilla. Now it's vanilla plus. Now it's more of a gourmand. And this one just did absolutely amazing. So yeah, moral of the story is if you add booze to your fragrances, you're going to make a lot of money. And the next fragrance is Guerlain L'Homme Idéal. And instead of going with more vanilla like the original, they added a cherry note. So this one, they really toned down the vanilla because the EDT here is tons of vanilla. They're like, okay, vanilla's important in gourmand, but it's not everything. So they added that cherry note to go with the almond, toned down the vanilla. And of the three that I just talked about, this is probably my favorite. This comes off to me as very, very classy fragrance. And that's why I have 100 ml and not a 50 ml. This is just beautiful. It's got really good performance. As I said before, very, very modern. This is a L'Amidiel line, is a modern line. And yeah, this is a high quality one. The next house was a real pain in the ass. It was the house of Prada. And actually, it's funny because that was not my original intention, was have one fragrance from each house, but I found a lot of the DNAs kind of overlapped. So I wanted to keep it relatively different, and I ended up with one fragrance from each house, and Prada was tough. This is Luna Rossa Black. Now, I know the Luna Rossa line started in 2012, which would put this, if this was actually really part of the line, it would disqualify it. But the Luna Rossa line, and I have a decant of Luna Rossa, it is a smooth lavender line. It had the smooth lavender in Luna Rossa Carbon as well, but it doesn't have any lavender. It doesn't have that smooth component in this at all. So this to me is a fragrance on its own. Now, Prada L'Homme Intense was really, really close. And I have a decant of that, and I wouldn't be afraid to talk about it. But at the end of the day, I went with Luna Rossa Black. It is considered to be a masterpiece by an awful lot of people. It's a sweet, musky scent, and it's got Angelica, which is like an herbal musk, just to make the musk a little bit different. And then they've got, musk, tonka, and amber. Really good performance, not just typical sweet fragrances, more subtlety to it. It's a little bit more mature, but definitely quite dark. Next up is YSL Y Eau de Parfum. And I think because Bleu de Chanel, I didn't include it because I see it as an older DNA. I think this is the most modern DNA for blue fragrances on the market, and the sales reflect it. Now, Bleu de Chanel still outsell this, but Bleu de Chanel sales, at least in the US, are going down, while the sales for this is still going up because this is different. This is newer. So it's pretty simple. It's sage, and that's an important note here, apple and ginger, and there's a little bit of amber wood, which is like woody ambery in the base. And yeah, this is still like an iconic blue fragrance. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I really like Bleu de Chanel, but again, this is not about favorites. This is pretty close, though. This is pretty close. The next one may disappoint a few people because the house was Maison Margiela, and I went with By the Fireplace. I know Jazz Club is marketed to men, and it is more popular with men, but still a lot of men wear By the Fireplace. I do prefer Jazz Club, but if you're talking quality, the performance here is vastly, and I mean vastly better than Jazz Club. Now, Jazz Club performance is good, maybe very good, but this thing is insane. I get at least 12 hours longevity with this, and I get a cloud around me for 3 hours. I mean, I got a bottle recently. I've had a small decant. I didn't really have a chance to test it. But with the bottle, I've been putting it on, and it's just like, it just goes on and on and on for days. So the performance, both longevity and projection of this is so much better than Jazz Club that even though I prefer the scent and that the scent is more popular, Jazz Club is more popular than this, this is just a very high quality scent from a very, very high quality house. Next up is Christian Dior, and I went with Dior Homme 2020. This does require a little bit of an explanation because the original Dior Homme line was iris-based. And even though this is called Dior Homme, this is not the same fragrance line as the original Dior Homme line because it's completely different. There's no iris here. There's a lot of 4 woody notes and a couple of very fresh notes, a citrus element. There's a frankincense element. So it's a different fragrance. And this is a gorgeous fragrance unto itself. I don't really need to apologize for it. Now, Dior Sauvage might be a lot more popular than this, but in terms of quality, yeah, I don't think this is matched. It's got everything. It's got performance. and it's got popularity. Yeah, I'm going with this one. Finally, we've got Issey Miyake, and this one was simple. Noir Ambre. It is a saffron, leather, and amber fragrance. Very strong, very powerful. Iconic. Smells so good. And that's number 10, and we're done. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care.